Ouch. It hurts. It hurts. Have you ever felt that way? I'm not talking about hurting yourself physically. But what if your feelings were hurt? I'm sure you have experienced that quite a few times. And this week's Torah portion actually gives you some interesting lesson about hurt feelings. There was a story of two Hasidim in the times of the first Lubavitcher Rebbe. These two Hasidim were partners in business. And over time, they had some disagreements, and they separated as partners. Eventually, unfortunately, the first partner went ahead and caused some trouble with the government for the second partner. And this second partner eventually ended up having to sit in prison. After he served his sentence and he was released, he went on to build his business again, and after a while he heard that the first partner has run into his own problems with the government and now is sitting in prison. What would have been your reaction? What would you have felt in such a scenario towards somebody that was the cause of your troubles? Serious troubles in the past. Before I tell you the end of this story, I want to take you to this week's Torah portion of Acharei Mos Kedoshim. And there is something fascinating that the Torah tells us about a very special day on the Jewish calendar. And in calendar, we have the famous day of Yom Kippur. About the day of Yom Kippur, in the Torah, in this week's Torah portion, it says that God has designated this day, the day of Yom Kippur, and he says over there, for on this day, he, God, shall effect atonement for you to cleanse you from all your sins. Before God, you shall be cleansed. That's the quality of Yom Kippur, to be cleansed from all your sins before God. So now the question is, that's magical. Yom Kippur could bring atonement. Does that apply to all wrongdoings, to all sins? The answer to that is no. There is actually a famous Talmud, part of the Talmud that talks about this. And in there, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says that from the verse, the fact that it says you will be cleansed before God, in front of God from all your sins, means it's only relating to the shortcomings, the wrongdoings that is between a person and God. However, in matters that are between one person and another person, those, a person has to first of all try to make up for the wrongdoing and ask apology, and only then God would forgive what has gone wrong. So in this sense, we see that not everything can be forgiven. But what if somebody in fact does come to you and says, I'm sorry for what I did wrong to you, and apologizes? What if you were really hurt when this happened to you? Are you supposed to be forgiving that person for what was done? So we have in the Code of Jewish Law that talks about it and says that a person should not hold a grudge, and even if something wrong was done, if the other person is coming forward and asking for a forgiveness, apologizing, and has righted what was wronged, then you should forgive. You should consider forgiving that person. And not only that, you should really consider forgiving that person. Truly. But the question is, how is that possible? What if I don't feel like forgiving that person? What if it's still hurting me inside? My feelings were hurt and they still feel the same way. How can I muster the power? How do I master the technique to be able to forgive somebody? So in regards to that, the book of Zohar brings a very interesting lesson from Yosef HaTzadik, from Joseph. You remember Joseph, the one that went down to Egypt? His 10 brothers had gotten rid of him, caused him lots of aggravation. And yet, when it comes to the time when they got reunited, I should say, he told them, I'm Joseph. They were in a shock, and now they were afraid that maybe he's going to be still angry for what they did, and he's going to take revenge. So Joseph turns around and says, hey, you guys may have had your own ideas of what you were doing and what you were doing it for. However, even if you meant it for bad, God meant it for good. God brought me here for all these years to establish a place for you to be able to come for this special time of hunger that the world is experiencing. So God meant it for good, even if you meant it for a bad reason. And therefore, I have no ill feelings. My heart is completely pure as far as feelings are concerned towards you. So the Zohar says this is where you have to learn a lesson from Yosef. In other words, if you realize and you always consider the fact that there is an owner to this world, there is a master to this creation, and he's the one directing everything in the world, including in your personal life. So therefore, true, your feelings were hurt, and of course the person that did the wrong should come and apologize and try to fix what was wronged. But as far as letting go inside of you and being able to forgive, as long as you remember that everything is from God. Nobody asked that other person to be the one to come and carry out what was perhaps destined to happen for you. That was wrong of him. He has to apologize. But at the end of the day, he is not the one that is in control. There is a higher power. And if you have that realization and you internalize it, it will become much easier to let go of the hurts inside and to be able to truly forgive someone. I wish all of you a wonderful, peaceful Shabbat, a healthy Shabbat, and God willing, we'll be able to see each other very soon in person, not just in the Chabad house, but in the Chabad house that will be relocated in Yerushalayim. Good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom to all.